Hello, everyone, and welcome back. This is a continuation of my trip in Japan. In the first two videos, which I will leave linked above and below, we explore Tokyo, and now we are on our way to Kyoto. So we opted to stay in a traditional ryokan, which I highly recommend. It is such a magical, authentic experience. Ours is located next to the Yazaka Shrine, but you would never know it. It's almost like entering this secret oasis. There are only 8 guest rooms and a restaurant and a spa. And like with all my videos, anything I call out like this, I will leave more info about linked in the description box below. We're pretty hungry, so we thought we'd seek out some great udon noodles in a quest to try as many different types of cuisine as possible. And this place is great. And here's our room transformed for the night. So they move over the table and they lay out these beautiful tatami mats. So the sun rises very early this time of year. It's light at about 4:30 a.m. So we tried to use that to our advantage to get up early and visit some of the more famous shrines before the crowds got too much. However, I think everyone else had the same idea because it was still pretty busy. We are at the famous Fushimi Inari Shrine. You've probably seen photos of its thousands of vermilion torii gates that cover a roughly 3-mile trail through Mount Inari. The shrine is dedicated to Inari, the Shinto god of rice, prosperity, and business, and it dates back to 711 AD. We're now heading to another very special place, the Gio-ji Temple, which is a small Buddhist temple in the Arashiyama district. It's tucked away in the forest, as you can see, and it is known for its moss garden, featuring over 20 varieties of moss. The moss garden reflects the wabi-sabi aesthetic, so the beauty of impermanence, simplicity, and decay. And the temple was originally built in the Heian period, and it honors Gio, a dancer turned nun, featured in the tale of the Heike, who sought refuge there after heartbreak. Which I would as well, because this is one of the most peaceful, beautiful places that I've ever been to. We're now making our way over to the famous bamboo forest. It's about a 15-minute walk between the temple where we just were and the forest. The exact age of the forest is unknown, but it has been maintained for centuries as a part of the area's traditional landscape. And it was originally planted for practical use, such as for building materials and crafts. And of course, it's now a major tourist attraction. We're now going to continue our culinary tour at Arashiyama Yoshimura, which is a beautiful restaurant right on the water, famous for its soba noodles. And now we're off to Nijo Castle to see a very special exhibit by Anselm Kiefer. So more than any other artist, I would say, Kiefer has done an impressive job of having exhibits in very rare, historically significant places. So if you haven't seen my video of his exhibit at Doge's Palace in Venice, I actually cried because it was so, so beautiful. I will leave that linked above and below. Some quick facts about the Nijo Castle are that it was built in 1603 to serve as the shogun's, or the commander of the army's, official Kyoto residence and a symbol of his authority over the imperial court. The castle is known for its elegant palaces, elaborate screen paintings, and the famous nightingale floors. So these squeaky wooden planks designed to sound an alarm if intruders approached. And it's now a UNESCO World Heritage Site and a major symbol of Edo period political history. The exhibit starts right when you enter the courtyard of Daidokoro, and you're met with a striking 31-foot tall lead sculpture titled Ra, which is named after the Egyptian sun god who symbolizes rebirth, renewal, and transformation. Since the late 1970s, Kiefer has used lead in his work. He was drawn to the material for its symbolic weight, saying, quote, "Lead is the only material heavy enough to carry the weight of human history." Also, ancient alchemists once believed that lead could be transformed into gold, which was a notion that for Kiefer became a powerful metaphor for transformation, suggesting the potential for human change and a break from a troubled past. Kiefer's father served in the Nazi regime, and he was born in 1945, growing up in the ruins of World War II, both emotionally and physically. So because of this, it's almost as if he's had a strong sense of needing to right all of these wrongs that he's so closely associated with throughout his life. A great example of this are these women of antiquity sculptures, which, quote, "celebrate women who were unrecognized in or erased from the early development of philosophy, science, medicine, and the arts in ancient Greek and Roman civilizations." Some of the women represented are the music theorist Telemachus of Cyrene, Margaret of Antioch, and the poet Sappho, among others. Another of Kiefer's enduring fascinations, shaped in part by his experience as a child of war, is a deep questioning of the universe's structure and the origins of life. So this has led him to explore mythology, philosophy, physics, and other fields that probe the nature of human existence. Next to the women of antiquity sculptures are paintings named after famous frameworks in physics, such as string theory. His depictions of these mathematical equations on top of destroyed landscapes are meant to be a warning about the consequences of using science to destroy rather than to advance humanity. If you're not familiar with Anselm Kiefer's work, he was born in Germany in 1945, and it often depicts the, quote, "desolate landscapes, ruins, vestiges of war, and abandoned fighter jets that evoke Germany's recent history." So enduring themes throughout his works are that of memory, suffering, and overcoming adversity. So what's the significance in this exhibit being in Japan? Well, it has been 80 years since Japan experienced the profound devastation of World War II with the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And so this exhibit is meant to continue Kiefer's, quote, "enduring commitment to human coexistence and peace while never allowing the scars of war to be forgotten." The works in this room are specifically meant to represent the violence of the atomic bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, and to, quote, "drive home the barbarities that were committed." This work is titled Führer Octavio Paz, which is a reference to the Mexican poet of the same name, and it's roughly 12.5 by 31.25 feet, so massive scale painting. The inside of the painting is inscribed with a quote from the poet that says, "Each is another and no other, crossing and vanishing through their empty names," which roughly speaks to how, as individuals, we are unique but also connected. This work was inspired by a photograph of the remains of a school after the Hiroshima bombings. You can see the skeletal frames of the building, as well as the carriage, which is meant to represent the loss of lives of children. How this exhibit came about is really interesting. So it all started when the gallerist Fergus McCaffrey was in Kiefer's Paris studio, and he saw a painting that reminded him of Kano school painting. When he started asking Kiefer if he knew about the tradition of Japanese gold leaf screen paintings, he said he wasn't aware, and it kick-started the artist's interest. Kiefer was excited to explore more about this connection because he had started using gold leaf in his paintings in 2012. In 2024, Kiefer visited Japan for the first time in almost 30 years for his exhibit at Fergus McCaffrey's gallery. Together, they visited the Nijo Castle, and the rest was history. So in these paintings, you can see some great examples of how he uses gold leaf. And unlike the works in the previous room, these works are inspired by water, and specifically the works of Monet and Ogato Corinne. Water is a metaphor frequently referenced in Kiefer's works due to its cleansing and life-giving properties, aligning with his overall key themes of transformation and renewal. The Morgenthau plan installation in this room is a reference to the Treasury Secretary Henry Morgenthau Jr. that attempted to come up with a plan to keep Germany from ever waging war again by having economic prosperity. So this was after World War II. His idea was to turn Germany into a, quote, giant potato patch, which turned out to be not such a great idea. There were a lot of outcries, and all of these learnings against this plan made their way to Japan, where the, quote, Allies came to adopt less punitive actions and a different approach to post-war reconstruction. While this installation is referencing the plan, it is using wheat rather than potatoes because it's also referencing Van Gogh's painting of wheat fields, as well as the wheat used as a way to represent German and Jewish identities in a poem by Paul Celan. The final few paintings that we're going to see are inspired by the Bible and how things like Jewish, Christian, and Islamic faiths share a common ancestry going all the way back to Abraham. Kiefer, in general, is fascinated with religion because it's often a powerful tool to obtain obedient sacrifice in the current situation in exchange for eternal life. He asks, quote, how is it that human nature makes us so susceptible to articles of faith and politics grounded in such blatant falsehoods, despite our advances in science and psychology? I decided that the most appropriate way to end the day was with a tranquil walk along the famous Philosopher's Walk. So the path is about 2 kilometers long, and it's named after the Kyoto University philosopher Nishida Kitaro, who is said to have walked this route daily for meditation and reflection. And I can't believe we're already off to our next destination in Japan, which I will be sharing with you all in my next video. So I hope you enjoyed the short but magical trip to Kyoto, and make sure that you're subscribed so that you don't miss my next one. I promise you are going to love it.